All right, so here we go again, guys. Another back day. I feel like I just post the same thing over and over again. But the reason that I do that is because this is how bodybuilding works. I know a lot of people will post videos where they're doing something different all the time, doing new movements all the time, using new machines all the time. And look, that can work, but that's just not the reality for most people. One, because most people just aren't going to have access to that many different pieces of equipment. And number two, most people aren't advanced enough to be able to do that. So to be able to switch movements all the time, constantly change them in and change them out, you have to be at an extremely high level. You have to have used those exercises a lot before in the past so that you already know how to perform them very well and get a lot out of the movement. And then on top of that, you have to have a very developed physique, because at that point, I don't want to say that progressive overload is not that important, but progressive overload is going to be looked at through a different lens than progressive overload for an intermediate or a beginner. Now, I've been lifting for 12 years, so I'm not a beginner, not an intermediate either. I would label myself as an advanced lifter. However, because I left the world of natural bodybuilding a little, like a year ago now, 15 months ago, something like that, I am essentially a beginner again. And so I basically have a whole another runway of progress that wasn't available to me beforehand. And now I can utilize that runway. And the best way to utilize that runway is to keep in the same movements, keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, adding weight to the bar, adding reps to sets. Eventually, yes, I will get to the point where, I might change out exercises more on a whim. But for right now, it's so unnecessary, because I am following very basic principles of progressive overload as essentially a beginner. So every time I go in there, it's either a little bit more weight or a little bit more reps, or it's matching weight, matching reps, but having a set look cleaner. So, as usual, my first exercises there were the unilateral pull down, 2 sets in the 8 to 12 rep range, and then 2 sets in the 12 to 15 rep range. After that, moved on to T-bar rows. So you're seeing my first top set here, 8 to 12 rep range here for that first set, 8 to 12 rep range for the second set, and then the third set is the 12 to 15 rep range. Also notice that my volume is not low by any means. I may have touched on this before. I feel like I touch on this a decent bit, actually, just because it's something that I see so prevalent with a lot of younger lifters, even intermediate lifters, just only doing like 2 sets for a movement or 1 set for a movement and then moving on to the next. Look, if you're not extremely strong, and I'm talking about crazy numbers, I just don't see the justification for only doing 1 or 2 sets, especially when you're young. Your body is capable of taking so much punishment and recovering. So I really think you're selling yourself short when you're only doing that super low volume type of stuff. even if the intensity is high. Because you got to understand that you might think that your intensity is high, but every year your intensity is going to get more and more and more and more intense, year after year after year. And you're going to look back 3 years in the past on your training and come to a conclusion that, wow, I really thought I was training super hard or really intensely beforehand. And that's just not going to be the case. So that's one thing that I always continue to talk about, just because I see so many guys doing it, is you're capable of doing more than you think. And this is a newer mindset that I think is a product mostly of social media and the quote unquote science-based lifting and stuff, of doing, just enough, essentially. Like, I'm going to do the least amount possible to get growth, right? And I think that actually hurts not only your growth, but your mindset. When I first went in the gym, I did way too much volume, okay? Like, I'm talking about like probably 20 plus sets for back every day, 20 plus sets for chest. Same thing for like every body part, right? But that kind of teaches you a mental fortitude, especially when you're doing all those sets really hard. And you're going to be able to recover, for one, because you're not going to be that strong, okay? Nobody who starts off in the first couple of years is anywhere near where they're going to be at the 10th to 12th to 15th year of lifting. So you're not going to be even generating the amount of fatigue that you think that you're generating. Because again, if you're paying attention to some huge guy who's 280 pounds and benches 500 pounds or squats 6 plates, yes, that guy only needs to do one set of squats because he's going to be absolutely destroyed. If you're doing 315 or 365, you can do more. You're going to be okay. And that goes on maybe to my next point would be this fear of overtraining that I see. I actually got a question about this on Instagram a couple weeks ago. Something along the lines of, I'm scared of if I'm overtraining. First of all, if that thought even crosses your mind, I can guarantee you, you're not overtraining. And then secondly, overtraining is actually such a hard state to reach. Overtraining is having rhabdo, right? That's true overtraining. And in the world of weightlifting, it's not impossible, but it's so rare. Where you see that way more is athletes that have to actually do a lot of training, like triathlons, Ironmans, things like that. So this fear of overtraining in the gym, I think, it's very unwarranted, especially for these people that have never went there. Like, you've never done 30 sets, so why do you think you can't recover? Have you even tried it out? That's the main thing I really think is, I see people already subscribing to and believing things that are said without trying it themselves. Bench press is bad. It's not optimal for growing your chest. You shouldn't bench press. Have you ever tried bench pressing? How do you know bench pressing doesn't work for you? Maybe it doesn't work for 90% of people. Maybe you're the 10% that actually works for. So now you're selling yourself short because you're not willing to try things, because you're not being open-minded. Little rant there, I guess. What you saw after the T-bar row was I did 3 sets of unilateral cable row. I only did 1 recorded, and then I did 3 sets of that pull down you just saw. The first pull down I did on the left side of the cable machine, That was actually really sticky with the cable. So I switched over to the other side and was able to perform it a little bit better. And then I went over to my bicep work. So 4 sets on this unilateral preacher. And that's the entire workout. But let's see. For back, right, when I mentioned that it's not low volume, I did 4 sets first exercise, 3 sets second exercise, 3 sets third exercise, and 3 sets on the last exercise. So that's like 13 sets total in my back work. Okay, that's a fair bit of sets, and I do that again 4 days later, 4 or 5 days later. I do the same amount of volume, so you can probably recover from more than you think. If you're only doing like 6 or 8 sets for back, you're likely just selling yourself really, really short. So, I just wanted to make a couple points there about, the basics, being open-minded, and not just following dogma that you see online because, some guy that has a lot of followers tells you so. Overall, had a really good workout here. I think this was my last set on the unilateral preacher. But yeah, overall, a good workout. I appreciate you guys watching this. I got a mic coming soon, so I won't have to do the voiceovers and can do some in-person stuff. So hopefully that will be a little bit more interactive. But I'm going to go ahead and end this video right here. As always, I appreciate the support, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.